Good morning, everyone. Here there is another capsule for the revision, that is fiscal policy. What is fiscal policy? Fiscal policy is a bigger term than your monetary policy because fiscal policy is defined as a discretionary action by the government to change. What change? The level of government expenditure on goods and services. Whatever the amount government spend on goods and services, transfer payment means government gives us pension or unemployment allowance or social security measures. That is basically part of fiscal policy. The yield of taxation at any given level of output. That is a you can say fixed defined definition given by DC Roman, but I am giving you the simplest explanation of the same. That is, fiscal policy is the policy which is related with the revenue, expenditure, and debt of the government for achieving a predetermined objectives like full employment, price stability, etc. So fiscal policy is defined as a conscious attempt of the government to achieve certain macro level goal. Macro level goal means the goal of the country, not the goal of individual person. Now we discuss this concept with the help of objectives. We have four objectives. Objective number one is full employment. Every nation's main objective is to maintain full employment in the country. To achieve this objective, they try to increase the aggregate demand. Government try to increase the public expenditure, and they most of the time try to reduce the taxes so that private sector spend more and more. So in that case, employment, production as well as employment increases. Here, the second point, that is price stability. What is price stability? The main objective of every country is to try to stabilize the price, not because inflation situation is bad, deflation situation is bad, as I had discussed in different previous sections, right? Fiscal policy seeks to reduce the aggregate demand by reducing the public expenditure and increasing taxes, whether direct taxes or indirect taxes. These measures can bring down the purchasing power of the money. So in that case, we people can, country can control the situation, and vice versa in case of deflation. Second is reduction in the economic inequality. Economic inequalities are sought to be removed through appropriate fiscal measures. For example, government impose, progressive taxation. Progressive taxation system means what? Higher the income, higher the tax, lower the income, lower the tax. Means poor people will give less taxes to the government and richer will give more taxes, so that purchasing power should be equal in the near future. Then here comes the next objective, that is economic development. Economic development is possible only seeks to increase the rate of capital formation. In underdeveloped countries, increase in the rate of capital formation is the sole factor to increase the output as well as employment. Now here come the methods, tools, instrument. Again, I am telling you, sometime examiner ask write down the method, sometime tool, sometime instrument. So the answer will be same in every case. The tools are, there are four tools basically in the hands of government. One is taxation policy. Government collect maximum amount with the help of taxes in their revenue. As I had discussed earlier about the revenue expenditure and that revenue, how they get revenue in the form of taxes. Taxes are of basically two types: direct taxes and indirect taxes. And as a result, tax either in monetary income or you can say on the monetary income, say salary or something, or business income. The real income of the people is diminishes, and so also their aggregate demand. So effect of taxes on aggregate demand depend upon the taxation multiplier. That is equal to always KT is equal to change in income upon change in tax. Means higher the tax, lesser the consumption, more the lesser the tax, more the consumption. right? It means change in the taxation has inverse effect on national income of the country. National income falls, otherwise national income goes up. Then we have government expenditure policy. What is government expenditure policy? Aggregate demand is influenced by government expenditure, right? There is increase in the aggregate demand if government expenditure increases. Understand? There are basically two types of public expenditure. One is public expenditure means when government want to purchase goods and services. That is one type. Public, the way of public expenditure is they want to purchase goods and services. The second option is public expenditure can be occurred with the help of by buying without buying goods and services, but spending in the form of pension, scholarship, medical facility, social security, education, unemployment allowance, etc. Public debt policy. Aggregate demand is also, you can say, influenced by two type of debts. One is internal debts, another one is external debts. Internal, it, public debts or on aggregate demand depend upon many factors like you know public debt, private debt. Private sector does not fall then by spending the amount of collected through public debts, right? Private expenditure goes down due to public debt, then it affects on aggregate demand, right? Become doubtful. Then we have very interesting point, that is deficit financing. Deficit financing means what? When the government meet its budgetary deficit by borrowing from RBI in case of India, or in any other country, the central bank, they borrow from Central Bank of India, it is called deficit financing. As a result of deficit financing, income of the people goes up, increases along with its aggregate demand. When aggregate demand increases, automatically employment generated. All government makes an increasing use of deficit financing in their revenue to run the economy, you can say. Next topic is what is how fiscal policy and inflation are interrelated, or through fiscal policy how government control inflation. Point number one is decrease in the public expenditure. How they decrease the public expenditure and affect inflation? Yes, very true. Government should reduce its unnecessary expenditure to minimize possible extent. In that case, they reduce the inflation of the country, because supply and demand may be balanced if government reduce the expenditure, unnecessary expenditure on public, on goods and services. Then I have another point, that is increase in the public debts. Reducing the private expenditure, it is necessary to move up with the purchasing power of the private sector through public borrowing. How it can be done? By selling the debenture and bonds by the government. When government sell the debenture and bond, people purchase it and deposit the money in banks. In that case, we can control the purchasing power. Then we have delay in the payment of old debts. It will restrict the current flows of money in the economy. Understand? Then we have increase in the taxes. To check the inflation, government should impose new taxes and increase the rate old rates, or impose certain cess on taxes. In this way, we can control the inflation, because people will spend less on goods. Overvaluation of money. Overvaluation of money means one of the cause of inflation is devaluation of the currency. Hence, to check the inflation, it is essential to overvalue it. Means import will increase and export diminishes. Then we have surplus budget policy. Budget policy means people will have less purchasing power when the revenue of the government is more than the expenditure. As a result, demand and price level will fall. Here come the next, fiscal policy and deflation. Deflation is opposite situation when prices goes down. How fiscal policy deal with this situation? Increase in government expenditure. In the first case, fiscal policy and inflation, decrease in public expenditure. Now, government try to increase the government expenditure, try to understand one important thing. What points you discuss in fiscal policy and inflation, you reverse all the points in this case, right? Decrease in taxes. If they reduce the taxes, people will spend more and more amount on purchasing goods and services. Then increase in the social welfare expenditure. Government should spend more on such social welfare activities like medical services, grants, roads, making canals, spend more amount on education, etc. Then we have a pump priming, that is something different which I have to discuss here. During depression, you know, a private investment goes so low. To increase the public investment become very essential. For that very reason, increase in the public investment serve as an incentive to the private investment. When government increase the public investment, so private investment also gear up. Such situation is known as pump pricing. There are certain ways through which they increase the pump priming. One is borrow from banks. On account of increase in the public investment, there is many time more increase in the total income under the impact of multiplier, right? Then we have price support policy. Price support policy means government during this period, government buy itself and stock essential at fixed prices, called support price. Means government fix the price for the product and purchase the goods on that fixed price, for example your wheat, etc. Then we have deficit financing. Again, government can help to increase the aggregate demand by the deficit financing, borrow the things from central bank of the country, that is RBI. Then we have exchange stability and fiscal policy. Exchange stability means what fluctuation take place in the foreign exchange rate should minimized. How to minimize this? With the help of BOP control. BOP matlab balance of payment. Balance of payment, there are two main terms. One is export and one is import. When we increase the export than the import, then automatically BOP will be favorable and it affects the exchange rate fluctuations a lot favorably. On the other hand, if imports are more than the export, in that case, exchange rate adversely affected by it. So they try to increase the export. BOP is the direct method. Then we have fiscal policy and economic development. Again, a very important topic from examination point of view. Formation. How capital formation is possible? Because capital formation is the main point of economic development. If more capital formation take place in the country, means we try to mobilize the saving of the people through banks or different financial institution, post office, etc. So economic development of the country is possible. How? That money is invested in certain profitable projects. On the basis of that, employment also increases. Increase in the national income. National income, obviously the objective of every fiscal policy is to increase the national income. Fiscal policy can prove helpful in achieving the objective through increasing the public expenditure. There is acute shortage of private entrepreneurs in underdeveloped countries, so the government try to launch new projects. Government should encourage private enterprises by making suitable changes in the fiscal policy. So in this case, basically, they try to